How'd that cord go?
Oh, well, we're getting a Twitter error, but
Trying
it
to
looks like we are live. Welcome,
back up this
everybody, to
cord
Breaking
over here.
Broncos podcast. We got Dylan over here losing cords and he can't find himself. He's getting off of camera shot here so we can see his entire dungeon. I am Dan Wetstein, your host. We will get started here, and I promise Dylan will be on camera in just a moment. He just got to find a cord he lost.
Yep, got it.
But we will be discussing the absolute shellacking that your Broncos took yesterday at the hands of the Chiefs in
But the
Kansas City.
absolute.
We'll talk about just the
Oh,
absolute shellacking. And we got Javonte Williams securing, in my opinion, the number one running back job. We'll discuss that in detail. And we got some more talk about the defense because they showed up as usual. So let's go ahead and jump into it. And as always, because one of those days we need some kind of sunshine and rainbows. Dylan, what do you got for us today on that win or that
I
loss,
got
I should say?
you got two sunshine and rainbows coming off. One is the absolute baller of a game our dog Javonte Williams had. My God, dude, it was
Agreed.
not a fun game to watch, but I was very entertained by watching the defense and Javonte Williams last night. Defense balled out,
Yes.
178 passing yards to Patrick Mahomes. I think it's not the least that he's thrown this season, but it's up there. I don't know what it is about the Broncos playing Patrick Mahomes. The defense just always finds a way to rattle him there, but the offense just finds a way to lose the game. But Javonte Williams was the only one. He carried that offense on his back the whole night, whether he was running the ball or if he was receiving the ball. He was just MVP of a loss last night.
I would 100% agree. He was the one bright spot on an absolutely abysmal offensive showing. Just to give y'all an idea of how much of a shellacking this was and how ridiculous that it was that they actually received a shellacking. Look at these stats, y'all. The Broncos absolutely dominated almost every stat line. They had they had almost twice as many total yards. They had over 400 total yards to the Kansas City, just over 250. They had 250 passing yards to Mahomes' 178 net passing yards. Think about that, y'all. The defense held Patrick Mahomes to 178 net passing yards, no touchdowns, and one interception. If I told y'all that outside of context, you did not know how this game ended, you would say what? That was a win, correct? Uh, It's absolutely insane to me that this team was so inept that they were able to dominate every stat line and still lose 22-9. I mean, just look
And
at that scoring.
the
3
reason
points in the
why,
second quarter, six in the fourth.
the reason why they dominated all those points on offense, the reason why offense has those great receiving yards, the most receiving yards last night was Javonte Williams. He had the most receiving yards on the team.
Actually,
Was it not?
by 1 yard, Jerry Judy got him by one
Hey, he had a
yard.
good night too.
77. Yeah, well, at the end in garbage time, yeah.
He
Javante was
did
the
in the
only
middle of the game. He
consistent
had those
weapon.
big passes too, those big
I mean,
catches.
he only had four. He had three catches for 77 yards.
Yeah,
Two of those catches came in the fourth quarter. It was stupid. They should have, because Judy was absolutely destroying Kansas City in the middle of the field. He was
oh yeah,
open on just about every play that he was running either a post or a seam route. He was absolutely destroying the safeties and the linebackers in the middle of the field. But for some reason, Pat Shermer kept throwing it everywhere but there and almost never called that deep in or that deep post route that the Chiefs were just letting them have. The Chiefs just played a game where they knew they didn't have to do anything special. They just had to make sure they didn't make the big mistakes like Dallas and Los Angeles did.
mm-hmm.
That's the reason the Broncos won those games is because Dallas and LA allowed this team to be in the game and get big momentum swinging plays like the pick six by Pat Sertan, the big, I think it was a 45-yard touchdown by Tim Patrick against the Cowboys. And those things were what allowed the Broncos to win those games. The Chiefs refused to allow the defense to win the game for the Broncos, which is the honestly the prototype of what every team should be doing from here on out. Just force Teddy to beat you because he yesterday he can't. Period. I don't care what any of y'all got to say. Teddy had an absolute abysmal game, no matter what way you slice it.
And the big thing about last night is people are talking about 22 points allowed, right? The defense was on the field almost that whole night, making plays. Pat Surtain had another pick, and they barely even threw the ball towards him that night. That's when you know they're scared of a player right there. When there were about 3 to 4 targets towards Pat Surtain that night.
Maybe
if you can look at that.
I can remember 2 off the top of my head. But one thing, after going back, everybody knows how much I love Pat Surtain. I do stand for Surtain, but I am really upset that he pulled up on the touchdown, on the rushing touchdown by Patrick Mahomes. If you have a chance to hit Mahomes, you hit Mahomes. The Buccaneers proved that in the Super Bowl when the Chiefs were playing the Titans. Everybody remembers that ridiculous 40-yard run where he was just bouncing off guys because it seemed like they were afraid to hit the guy. But then you fast forward to the Super Bowl, and the first time that Pat Mahomes scrambled, Antoine Winfield Jr. just cleaned his
laid him out,
destroyed him. You know what? The man never scrambled again the rest of the game.
And that was the same thing.
For his life.
I can find another similar type of thing back. It's back in the 2015 AFC Championship game between the Broncos and the Patriots. The 2 times Brady scrambled, the one time he got away with it, and then he decided he could try it again. That's when Aqib Talib just laid him out on the sideline. You didn't see him move again. Exactly. And that's what you have to do. And I know that, I know why some players won't do it is because they're scared of a flag. The game's all about protecting the quarterback, right? But as soon as he gets past that line of scrimmage, he's a runner.
After he gets out of the pocket.
Yeah, the pocket.
After he leaves the pocket, he is a runner, and you can hit him in any way that you want. It's just while he's in that pocket, he is protected. And I do agree with you. I think that defenders forget that, especially young defenders. It's beat in their head. Don't hit the quarterback low. Don't hit him too hard. Don't land on top of him.
Yeah. Especially for a quarterback, the face of the NFL, Patrick Mahomes.
Yes.
That's why they're scared to hit him.
And Brady made that famous because of all the rule changes that happened because of Brady. There's at least 4 rules in the rule book that were not in the rule book before Tom Brady. The rule that you can't hit a quarterback below the knees, the rule that if you go on the ground, you have to get up on both feet. Not on all fours, you have to get on both feet before you can hit the quarterback. The tuck rule, and there's one other rule. I can't remember off the top of my head, but there's 4 rules in the rule book that are specifically because of something happened to Tom Brady.
And the tuck rule.
Why these guys? Yeah,
I can give that one. I'll give the Raiders that one. I will always give them that one. It's the only thing I'll ever give them is the tuck rule.
yeah, the tuck rule is one thing that they got out of all that.
When they had the racist as their head coach for the first time.
Right, for the first go round. But yeah. I mean, so honestly, I do agree that it seems like defenders forget that once they break the pocket, they are now essentially a running back, and you can just level them. You can just knock them out if you
just don't touch that helmet.
Yeah, just don't touch nowhere above the shoulders. You don't even have to touch the helmet. If you get above the shoulders, that's the other one. That's the other one that Tom Brady got into the rule book. So but what's funny is that Tom Brady is responsible for these rules, but yet he's the guy that's coming out this year talking about how he hates the rules. It's like, what kind of contradiction is that? But,
I don't know if he should be saying that, dude. He's a little brittle. He might get hurt.
Father Time is undefeated. He's going to win eventually. Yes, Tom Brady is obviously, held off Father Time better than any of us, but eventually it is going to happen. So, and I think honestly, those rules are the only reason that Tom Brady is still playing in the league today. Mm-hmm. If they had the same rules, just as when John Elway was the quarterback, you ain't got to go back that far. You just go back to when John Elway and Joe Montana and Steve Young and them were playing. Those rules would not have allowed Tom Brady to play as long as he had. So, honestly, he should be.
Look at all those hits those guys took. There's some of those hits that Favre took where you're like, how is he still alive?
Right. Yeah, the couple where he's just like crumpled up in the fetal position, then gets up and chucks a
Every time,
50-yard touchdown.
every time I think of
Toughest man alive.
every time I think of a quarterback hit, I just think of the Joe Flacco hit against the Dolphins. And he knocked his helmet off, and he's getting up and looking all woozy. Check,
Yes,
please.
yeah, that one's good. And then the most recent one I like is the one of Aaron Rodgers on the ground with his helmet over his face, just looking crazy.
The Eli one's good too against the Cowboys when his
Yes.
face is all in pain,
Yes.
just shock.
Definitely is. So we've done already broke down exactly how pathetic this offense was, but let's go ahead and let's move on to again one of those positives. The defense balls out again, allowing only 178 net passing yards. How much of a waste is this defense playing opposite of this offense?
It's a big waste, I think, because this defense is top tier, championship caliber defense, I would say. Of course, you don't have the big stars on the defense. Not everybody knows the names like the Chiefs do. You got the Honey Badger, you got Chandler Jones, and is that Chandler Jones, right? Or is it Chris Jones? Chris Jones, okay.
Yeah,
Chandler Jones is the Cardinals.
The outside linebacker for the Cardinals,
Yep. And there's another one like the J.J. Watts, all these guys. There's not a big name on that defense. There's only one I could maybe give a name for, and that's just Justin Simmons, right? That's the only memorable one on the team.
That and probably Bradley Chubb.
And Bradley Chubb.
Pretty good pub. And maybe Kareem Jackson, because Kareem Jackson's really killing it in the Pro Bowl.
Yeah, and he's been around the league a while. Everybody knows him.
Right. Exactly. So, but outside of those guys, and I mean, yeah, Patrick Surtain's making a name for himself, obviously, and he already has a name from his father being a former Pro Bowler and All-Pro down in Miami, and Kansas City as well. So,
Man,
I mean,
there's
some budding stars, and there is some legit superstars on that side of the field. Does this not remind you of 2016, but with worse quarterback play?
Yep, it reminds you of 2016, right? Defense returned, I think, 10 or 9 of 11 starters on the defense.
Yeah, it was all but Bradley Roby.
No, Bradley Roby was there the next year. He was there for one more season.
Oh, yes, he was there for one more season. Yes.
And it was, I think they lost.
Shane Ray.
Shane Ray was still there.
Ware. No, Shane Ray, that was 2015 was Shane Ray's final year.
No, it was the year after because he played one more and went to Baltimore. Because we still had all 4 of those. We had DeMarcus, Vaughn, Shaq, and
DeMarcus retired after 2015.
16. He played one more season too.
Did he?
Yeah, he played one more season, and then they missed the playoffs, and he retired.
I could have swore he retired on top.
He retired the year after. But the thing about the offense on that,
right. Yep, 2016.
That same team, and it was the same exact team, besides a few missing players and no Peyton Manning, right? But the thing about those teams is the offense put up numbers, good numbers still. The year after Peyton, I think the offense had a better year the year after Peyton left than it did in the Super Bowl season under Trevor Siemian, if I'm not mistaken.
It's sad to say that. I mean, again, this is Trevor Siemian, and I love Trevor. I mean, I think he's a really good backup. I never really saw him as the franchise guy as some people did, but he was a very serviceable quarterback. That if you had a really good defense and a really good offense and everything clicked right, you could win some games with them. Probably not going to win the Super Bowl. Yeah, and they did. They went 9-7, missed the playoffs by a game, and it was a tiebreaker. I think they tied with the 7th or the 6th seed, and then lost on a tiebreaker.
But we knocked the Raiders out that season. I believe we knocked the Raiders out of playoffs
in the last game, and then they held the destiny in their hands in the second to last week. If they would have beat, I forget what team it was, but they would have beat that team and then beat the Raiders the next.
Oh, it was the game they threw to the Titans.
Yes, the Titans. That's who it was.
Because that was the Emmanuel Sanders celebration game that screwed them over.
Yep. That blew everything out of the water. So yeah, so they held their destiny in their hands that season in the last 2 weeks. That's not going to happen this year, guys.
But the difference between that team, though, the big difference between that offense to this one is that one had a second-year quarterback, inexperienced, right? But it had a veteran offense. The rest of them were had been in the league. They'd been playing. You had DT Emmanuel. You had CJ Anderson return. You know, all these guys who've experienced that can help them out. But the thing about this new team is they're young.
And you had a competent play caller then. You had Gary Kubiak opposed to Pat Shurmur. I think that's the biggest difference. The play caller and the QB. I think that Peyton and Elway had created something in their head that they were creating 2016 over again, but with a better quarterback, only to find out they had not only a worse quarterback, but a much worse play caller that has no idea how to call a game with any type of flow.
Just imagine if Brock never left for the money.
I'm saying, but I mean, even then, because Kubiak had to go because of health problems. I'm not 100% sure because Kubiak's going to go anyways. If Brock stays, do you really think he's going to make Vance Joseph teams any better?
No. What I was saying about that is imagine how different it would have been. You know, it would have been a different season without a Trevor Siemian that year.
2016. Yes.
Yeah.
If you're just talking specifically.
Just 2016.
Yeah, I think that they at least go back to the playoffs and make a deep run. If not, take it all the way back to the Super Bowl with that defense. I'm not saying Brock Osweiler is going to ride them, but
that team
was 5-2 with that defense,
and he knew how to put up numbers. Offense. He knew how to put up points,
and he had some really good highlight plays. As much as people want to dog on Brock Osweiler, I mean, I just think back to that Patriots game where he bounced off like 5 defenders inside the 10-yard line, bounced it out to the right, and found DT in the back of the end zone with an absolute laser on the run.
And then when he found Bubba Caldwell on the back of the end zone as well, too, and late in the game.
Yes. I mean, the man really showed a lot of talent, especially the athleticism in the 6'7".
His best game, I think, other than the Patriots one, which I think was his best. I think his second best, the one that really proved to me that he could play, especially under a Kubiak system, was the game against the Bengals.
Yes. That was really his coming out like, hey, look what I can do.
And that's when Texas saw, that's when the Texans were like, we found our guy.
That's our guy.
Yeah,
that's our guy.
The man robbed the Texans, robbed the Browns, came back for another season, retired on top with a ring and enough money to live his life.
Yeah, I mean, the man is set for the rest of his life. I can't either. You know, I mean, hey, when a team is offering you, I think the total between the Broncos and the Texans offer was like an extra $15 million.
Yeah,
I'm gonna take the extra $15 million.
And then the Browns had to pay hit when the Texans traded him to the Browns, and then the Browns gave him back to us. The Browns and Texans had to pay him to play for the Broncos. Man,
most definitely. So
and then imagine he came back to the Broncos and balled out.
Right.
You know how funny that would be? You just rob 2 teams and just win.
Right. I honestly thought I thought about that storyline when it all happened. I was like, if this man comes back and balls out, you know how angry those fan bases are going to be.
Right.
I mean, the Browns ended up paying the Texans to get a second-round pick by taking Brock Osweiler. Like he was literally a throw-in just so that the Houston Texans could get his money off the books. The Browns bought a second-round pick and then released the man that they just absorbed $20 million of dead money and just released him because nobody else would trade for him. Like they couldn't get anybody else to even throw them like a late-round pick, and they were going to eat the money still. Like that tells you how far that man fell from being what was supposed to be Houston's missing piece. A lot in the way that Teddy Bridgewater was supposed to be the Broncos' missing piece, and is another cautionary tale of free agency. Like just because a player was really good in one system does not mean that they will translate into.
That was a funny offseason because that's when Marshawn went to the Raiders. The first season when Marshawn moved over to the Raiders, and then he spent those few seasons.
Same year.
Dude, no, my favorite is when he went back to the Seahawks when he signed with them in the playoffs for that first week.
Yes. 16 free agent class.
Yeah, the 2016, that was a good offseason. I still think the craziest offseason was the 2020 offseason, 2019 to 2020, when Brady ended up in Tampa with Gronk.
Yeah, I think that really took a lot of people off guard. But I think that the debate of is it Brady or Belichick is over. I think it's definitively both.
It is
The
both.
only way, yeah, the only way that you have a dynasty that long is you have to have both. You have to have a great coach and you have to have a great quarterback.
And now I see
It's the
what
only way to
Belichick
sustain
saw
forever.
in season Mac Jones. He's like Brady. He's got that same play style. He wants to win. He's got that driven ability to want to win. The man just knows football. And, from what I've heard, he would practice his plays with his girlfriend out in the backyard at his house. Had to teach
Mhm.
Cam Newton about the playbook. That was the funniest. That killed me.
Yeah, I love Cam, but some of the stories makes that it really paints a picture like all he does is work out and then goes out on the play on the play field and then just plays backyard football. Like it doesn't seem like he really does much studying when you talk to his previous
Teams,
co-players and
coaches.
teammates. There you go.
Yep.
There we go. I can't believe that word just flew out of my mind. Teammates. There we go. And things of that nature. They always paint a picture of a seemingly lazy Cam outside of the gym. Like every one of them will talk about his work ethic in the gym and things of that nature. But I really haven't heard anybody just be like, yeah, he's so cerebral and he just picks up a playbook really quick. He's just the better athlete and he's always been the better athlete. So he just assumed that that's always going to be the case and never took into account that his body's eventually going to break down. Like I think a lot of the things that happened early in his career, like when he rolled that truck and came out of it with nothing but a small fracture in his spine, and then played that week and went off for like 300 yards passing, almost 100 yards rushing. The dude was a mutant. Okay, and so that's one of the reasons why I loved Cam so much. Just he was a freakish athlete,
Hey, he
but
couldn't get as
all of
bad
those
with
dudes.
that without learning the playbook. He couldn't get bad as Jamarcus Russell.
Right, I know. Well, he also didn't get up to almost 350 pounds either, and then
Yeah.
try to come in and do his conditioning test in that. Like the man has always kept himself in shape. He's always been at peak physical condition. It's just always been a question of whether or not he was cerebral enough to
Yeah.
really win it all. Even though he did take that Carolina team to the Super Bowl, I think people will
Von
always
Miller
have
destroyed
that
his
question of
career.
yes, and the funny thing is that no player, even players that played in his division, have more sacks on Cam Newton than Von Miller. And the few times that they played, he has the most sacks of any single player on Cam Newton.
That's such a crazy stat.
It really is. I mean, he's beating out people that played this man twice a year for a decade, and the man played him, I think, a total of 4 times in his entire career. So, I mean, that just
Nothing
tells
will
you how
beat.
much Vaughn.
All those
Good.
sacks are great, right? All those Von sacks are great. But my favorite one, before we get back on topic, was the DeMarcus Ware sack to end the half, where he just went around the edge unblocked and just picked him up and slammed him into the ground.
Yes.
That next
I
year
mean,
is when
just
they changed. I think
destroyed
that
him.
next year is when they changed hits on quarterbacks too, because of the AFC Championship game and the Super Bowl,
Yep.
because they
100%.
were
Yeah.
obliterating them.
Yeah. That was when, the body weight rule came in because that was like Malik Jackson's thing was he would come in, destroy them, and then put all 320 pounds on that quarterback's
I
chest
miss Malik
as he
Jackson. That
went
man
down.
was a beast.
He really was. I'm sad that he left because he never really found another system that was able to
He had the
show off
one
his
good
talent.
season in Jacksonville,
Yeah.
the
Yeah, well, I
Saxonville
mean, that
season.
was
Yeah.
the Saxonville season, but that's because he had Calais Campbell,
Yeah.
Giannis Ngakwe, and that
Yeah,
other kid.
Jalen Ramsey's rookie season.
Jalen Rams, and they had another
Leonard Fournette's
tackle
rookie season on the offense.
Leonard Fournette's on offense, and they had, I mean that
Blake
defense with
Bortles.
that
I'm
Miles
joking.
Jack,
I'm joking.
Yeah, I was gonna say you might want to pull that back. I mean, like Miles Jack, that defense was
Yeah.
stacked. But I mean, honestly, that Jaguars team is the best version of what this Broncos team could be. Is a absolutely stacked defense with piss poor quarterback play from a mediocre
Great running
quarterback.
back.
Yes,
Yeah, great running
everything
back.
else was great except that quarterback. But they're the epitome of what this team could have been if they got decent quarterback play, which they have not outside of a handful of games this year, which is why they're 500. We got some people in the chat here. Just want to get some shout outs. Thank you, Dave, for coming in. We are here. Hey, Rizzy, appreciate you being here. Trey, appreciate you, bro. And Nika, as always, appreciate you coming in. And I appreciate that. I like this shirt a lot too. It was actually, I think, if I remember, I can't remember if this was a birthday present from the mom or a Father's Day present from the family, but it was one of the two. So yeah, I love this shirt too. It's comfy as hell too. I can't believe how comfortable this shirt is. But anyways, enough about my shirts. Let's go ahead and talk about the fact that Teddy couldn't even rack up garbage time stats that have secured his job to this point. Is it time to make a change, or would it even matter?
At this point, I don't even think it matters, don't you think? Just because, you'll get the same, you got two different type of quarterbacks, right? You got Teddy and Drew. Solar opposites when it comes to play. But exact same person when it comes to just being on the sideline, same work ethic. They have the same work ethic. And it's great work ethic, right? They're there all the time. They're first one's in, first one's out, last one's to leave. I almost messed that up. Yeah, first one in, first one out. First one in, last one out the door. Drew, the thing. Let's go for it.
I was going to say, we pointed out in the cast yesterday, they showed on the sidelines where Teddy and Drew were like giving each other a bit of a hard time, not in a bad way, like they were having fun with each other. So it shows that there's actually still a really good relationship there, which I love. The veteran taking the young kid under his wing, even though the young kid might take his job. So, I mean, yeah, to answer the question, I don't think it's going to really matter.
Yeah.
Outside of the fact that Drew gives you the best chance of losing all 5 games and getting yourself in as good of a draft position as possible. So I know that's kind of like a jaded look at it, but I mean, yeah, I think Teddy gives you too much of a chance of them winning too many games to get absolutely horrible draft position. And then again, that goes back to the fact that that means that if you're going to go get a veteran quarterback, you got to give up more draft capital than you would have if you had a higher pick. Or if you want to go get a quarterback in the draft, you're not going to get one of the top ones. And I will admit that this year's quarterback crop is, we'll just say, mediocre at best.
I think you're looking at free agency this offseason.
Free agency or trade, I would hope. But again, the better your draft pick is, the less draft picks you got to give up to get that veteran. I mean, yes, for Russell Wilson, you're probably still going to give up 2 to 3 first, a second, a third, all of that.
And look at all the picks he has, though, right now. Look at all the picks Peyton has stacked. You can use as much of those as you want, and you still have a lot of picks.
Right, but there's still, you got to be able, you also got to keep the big picture in mind. You can't just throw all these picks at a veteran quarterback and then have
to get maybe 3 to 4 years.
Yeah, and then get nothing, and then have nothing to fill out the rest of the roster. You still need offensive linemen. You still need defensive linemen. You still need a cornerback or two. You still need a back end wide receiver. You still need you really need to go get a fullback. Like, I don't understand, why do we have like 5 tight ends and no fullback?
Yeah, and Saubert, the tight end's doubling as the tight end. Saubert, right?
Andrew Beck.
And Andrew Beck. They've both been doubling as a fullback from what I've seen. I know Beck's the starting fullback. He's the main fullback. But Saubert will be in there every once in a while. But you got those 2 options. Yeah. That's where you miss Andy Janovich. That's where I miss Andy Janovich. The Browns have used him to his full potential.
Right. I mean, you just see him opening up holes for Chubb and Hunt over and over and over again.
See, imagine Javonte with Andy Janovich.
Bro, could you imagine? Like, Andy Janovich ain't missing the defensive tackle or the linebacker, I apologize, on the 4th and 2. He's clearing that guy out, and Javonte's getting the first down. instead of a turnover on downs
But the thing,
like they did, even though that play
yeah,
call was absolutely infuriating.
you should have thrown it. But the thing about the fullback is it's a dying position. They're a dying breed. You've seen it over the years. They are just underused each more every year, which sucks. The fullback used to be the main guy on the team.
Yeah, the fullback, I mean, was always a big, especially if you go back and you look at the '90s Broncos team. You look at
Yes.
Howard Griffith. And
Howard
what
Griffith
he
was a
able to
monster.
do. Yes, what he was able to do in the passing game and the running game, opening up holes for
The one-armed
Terrell Davis.
catch against the Steelers.
Yes, and I mean that's what I'm saying. Like he was a true all-around fullback, and one of the very last. I mean, you got a couple now. Like you got Ricard over in Baltimore. You got Juszczyk in San Francisco.
Juszczyk is he's a beast.
Yeah, Janovich. But if you look at what those offenses are, what are they? They are West Coast running offenses, which is exactly that's the only offense that has worked in Denver. If y'all look back outside of the Peyton Manning years, but even then he was still running a West Coast type running game that they melded to the passing game he brought from Indy. So even then he was still using West Coast concepts. But if outside of those years, the only offense that has ever worked here has been that West Coast one cut and go running game, and then using play action off of that. That has been the most successful offense, not only in Denver, but honestly the entire NFL.
Definitely.
When you go back to when it was invented by Bill Walsh in San Francisco, it has been the one offense that has stood the test of time because every play has 4 or 5 variations to it. So even though you saw the team run a run play out of the same formation just the play before, the next play they have 3 other options from that same formation. So every play looks the same, but they're all different. That was the genius of Mike Shanahan and Bill Walsh in that West Coast offense. And so until they are somehow able to figure that out and get that back into Dove Valley, I really think they're going to struggle because as long as they're trying this 3 wide, just ridiculousness that they are doing right now with Pat Shurmur, they're going to struggle.
Oh, definitely. I think the biggest, and that's the sad thing about the fullback dying breed, I say, because not a lot of people run the West Coast offense anymore. There's the few. There are the few. And I had a point in my head, but I lost it. But okay, I got it. That's what the Broncos need to be using more, right? Look at that. When the Broncos had success back then, I know it's not the same coach or the same team, right? But that's where, look at the plays that had success last night. The runs, those nice runs right up the middle, and then a nice play action pass off a boot.
Yeah, the outside zones were the most successful runs. Yep. And that's why that call on 4th and 2 to just run Javonte up the gut was so infuriating.
But then you remember on the 3rd and 7, he ran it outside and made everybody miss and got it a 3rd and 7 to make it a 1st and goal.
Exactly. But for some reason, and I kind of consternate about whether or not Shurmur was advised that he was going to get a chance on 4th down, because I really would have liked to see those 2 plays flop. Because on 3rd down, they threw the pass, which I'm not 100% angry at. It could have been better play design, but that's I think he said about every single Pat Shurmur play that he has ever put out on the field. And then they just turned, and on 4th down, they ran up the middle. I would rather have seen them on 3rd down, running up the middle, see if you can just grind it out, and then on 4th down, go ahead and do a play action pass, outside zone run, anything other than running up the middle.
Definitely.
When you can tell the defense was ready for it. And if you look at the replay, Javonte Williams isn't even sure if he was supposed to be in the game. He's looking at the sideline with 2 seconds left on the play clock on 4th down. How does nobody call a timeout at that point?
I don't know. And, the one things I enjoyed from last night is I loved the aggressiveness, right, to go for it on those 4th downs. The first 2 were good, right? The first 2 that they converted, perfect. Those are the right play calls. I don't know what it is about Shermer on having great play calls on fourth down besides the 1 4th and 2. They were all great, and then he hits that 4th and 2. I don't know what happened. You should have ran it outside, or you should have just thrown it. You could have just thrown a nice short pass like Teddy loves, right? Teddy will complete that short pass over the middle because that's what he's best at. And that's what you should have done there. You would have had the drive kept going, and you probably score, and the game's different.
Right. And another shout out here. Appreciate you, Randall. Again, thank you for having us and giving us this opportunity. Always glad to see you in the chat. And we got the Broncos trying to lose with Teddy to get a good QB in the draft. I actually don't believe that's true.
I don't think there's any good QBs
Teddy,
in the draft.
I mean, really outside. I mean, there's some that have potential, and there's some possibilities, but there is no slam dunk number 1 overall pick.
Ready for an offensive lineman to be the first pick in the draft?
Actually, I think it'll be a defensive lineman, and it'll be Aiden Hutchinson.
Oh my God, he is a beast.
Yeah, from Michigan, but I should say he should be the number 1 overall pick, but it is the Detroit Lions. They always do something stupid. They are going to reach for a quarterback. It's either going to be Pickett or Strong, and the combine's going to determine which one. I think it'll be Pickett because he's more athletic, but that's just my early prognostication on the number 1 overall pick. I do believe it will be Kenny Pickett out of is it Pitt or Iowa? I can't remember off the top of my head right now.
How do you spell his last name?
Pickett.
Pitt. Yeah, Pitt.
And appreciate you, Mandy. I appreciate it. I try my best. What's up? And how can Broncos keep up with the offense and defense? Really, honestly, get a new quarterback and an offensive coordinator, which unfortunately is not going to happen at this point in the season. That's the only way the offense.
It's at the end of the season.
Yeah, it's at the end of the season.
And we're going to see Brian I forgot how to pronounce his last name just last second. Who is that? I have to look it up now.
That's all right. We got another question or another comment here. How can the Broncos?
Brian Dabo.
Second place. Dabo, yes, Brian Dabo. Okay, gotcha. But really, honestly, I don't see the Broncos getting out of the basement. Nope. They're probably going to win. Against the Lions and stuff. We'll go more detail into that.
Well, let's hope.
Right. So probably
after the Eagles game, I'm not so sure about that.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, the fact that they have 3 divisional games after that are what give me pause, and only one of them is left at home, I believe. Let me double check that.
It's just wrong. The Chiefs one's at home.
Yeah. The Chiefs is the only one left at home after this weekend against the Lions. So I'm not seeing how the Broncos can really crawl out of this hole. The only real win I see is Detroit, Cincinnati, even though they have Cincinnati at home, even though Joe Burrow's finger is jacked up, I don't see how the offense keeps up with their offense. Las Vegas, they're in Vegas. That's a loss. Los Angeles Chargers, you're telling me there's a chance, Dumb and Dumber type of chance.
That's technically going to be a home game, the way we travel.
Yeah,
especially in LA.
Yeah, and they still got to cross time zones though, and all those things. Yeah. So it's a 2:05, and honestly, it's kind of surprising that every single one of the remaining games is in the afternoon. I wouldn't be surprised if at least 2 of the remaining 5 games don't get flexed into the 11 o'clock time slot, especially if they lose against Detroit. If they lose against Detroit, probably every one of the rest of their games gets flexed into the 11 o'clock slot, because I'm sure that the NFL is really upset with themselves for flexing that game. And I said that they would regret it. I said that this was going to be an absolutely horrible game, and nobody wanted to listen to me.
I think they have a good chance at beating the Raiders the way they've been playing lately. The Raiders have not been looking on fire, and they lost their running back. They lost Drake for the rest of the season. I saw this morning. Yep, they lost.
Oh man,
Rap Sheet had
I
that.
missed that.
So so you lose him for the rest of the season. Then who do you have left there? That's just you just have Jacobs left, right? Josh Jacobs.
Uh, when you're talking about running backs, yeah, I think
Yeah,
that would be pretty much all that they have left in there. You know, they've already lost Henry Ruggs forever. He's
it's going to be a
gone with
different
the other
game
running
this
back
time
coach.
around because the last time we played them, last time the Broncos played the Raiders, it was the week after the Gruden incident. So they still had all their best players, right? But this time you're going into a beat up Raiders, their morale's down. You know, you lose Henry Ruggs, which horrible incident that happened. Then with the Gruden stuff, you lose Jacobs. They have not been playing great. They lost to Washington. Don't get me wrong, Washington's not a horrible team. They have some playmakers, right?
Really good defense. Really
And they
good.
win without
played that
Chase
again.
Young. They beat the Raiders without
Right.
Chase Young. So that's a big game that they could win, especially the way the defense has been playing since the last Raiders game. That could be a win in my book. Detroit should be a win, but I'm not going to say much because we know what's happened before. Chargers, who knows? That's a toss-up. It's maybe about a 60-40 chance that they lose that game. But the Chiefs won. That's just if they want to make the playoffs, which probably won't happen, right? It's I'd say I'd give it a 35% chance they make playoffs here. You had to beat the Chiefs this last night to even want to say you're going to make the playoffs. It'd be better to beat the Chiefs the first time and then lose the second game would be better for them, right? I mean, but yes, I could say an even 2-2 record here. You could make a 2-2.
I mean, 2-3.
2-3. Oh, yeah, it's 5, right? Sorry, a 2-3.
Yeah, it's 5. It's cool. But yeah, I mean that still only gives you an 8-10 record. That does nothing but give you a worse draft pick. That doesn't get you in the playoffs. That doesn't get you anywhere. It doesn't do anything for you. And so that's why I say, man, why not? Just throw Drew out there. If he loses all 5 games, cool. At least that gets us closer to a top 10. I mean, at this point, they're not going to get a top 10. The top 10 is essentially spoken for at this point in juncture.
It's just whether the people in the top 10, where they swap around in there.
Right. And I would rather see them get up higher because even though there's not a quarterback really in the draft, there's a lot of defensive and offensive talent, especially at the skill positions in this draft.
And even that just really on the line.
Pass rusher, yeah, defensive line, offensive line, and pass rushers are stupid deep this year. That's where the real depth is in this class. And those are all 3 things that the Broncos desperately need, especially after getting rid of Von Miller, especially after all the rash of injuries across the offensive line. You see Garrett Bowles taking steps back. I mean, they really need to focus on the trenches, especially offensive, defensive line, and pass rushers. Those are the 3 biggest areas of concern for me.
If there was
on this team,
if there's one lineman I would love to get in this draft, I don't know if he would fall this far or if he's even going to head to even try and get into the draft, but is Kenyon Green from Texas A&M. Have you seen how he's played this season?
I have seen. I'm not sure he is eligible. Let me double check.
He's a junior.
Yes, he is a junior. He is eligible. So I don't think he has declared yet. I'm double checking. Yeah, I would be surprised if he doesn't because everybody's projecting him as a first-round pick. So, yeah, Kenyon Green, I do agree. I think actually he's one of them that might fall just because of all the other skill position players, wide receivers, cornerbacks, things of that nature are coming out. So it might dilute the top 10 or top 15 enough for a Kenyon Green to drop. So that is a legitimate possibility. And we've all seen what happens with 55s coming out of Texas A&M and coming to Denver. Now, that was Von Miller before. So, would love to see him in orange and blue, most definitely. He looks like an absolute beast.
And you could get him, depending how that draft goes. Looking how this draft should go, definitely probably would be able to get him.
Definite possibility. I'm actually starting to do my research for the draft for the off season and stuff, and I'm really started to focus on pass rushers here lately. So I'm going to get some more information for y'all on those things, and I'm going to start working on some mock drafts and stuff for y'all too. I think that's something I really enjoy, so I look forward to doing for y'all, and I hope y'all look forward to those.
You
as
know what
well.
makes
Those
me
will be
mad
those up.
is when the analysts do mock drafts after week 1 of the NFL.
Oh my god, it drives me nuts. Yes, or they do the mock draft like the day after the draft. Like last year, they had mock drafts literally the day after
Oh,
that draft, where you had
do they have
absolutely
nothing better to
no
do?
information.
Is there nothing else to do
can't-
around there?
Obviously not. That must be the only thing that they do. I'm like, I'm gonna need y'all to get another hobby. Please get another hobby.
Get a different
Because
job
y'all
if
are gonna
that's all you're
never-
going to have to do.
Right, exactly. Like I that drives me nuts 100%. But yeah, that's why I always wait until December. I start doing all of my. I really start.
This is when
diving
I
into
start to look at
research.
them.
Yes, exactly. I start deciding what are the biggest needs for the Broncos. What should be looked at the most, and then I start. That's where I start, and then I really look through every position group and at least the top 15 of every position group coming into college. So I will get those out for y'all. I will get the mock drafts and stuff out for y'all here in the next few weeks. That will all go up on the answers42media.net website. So make sure y'all are checking out for those. But speaking of some more, let's get some more bright spots in here today. Again, Javonte Williams is 178 yards from scrimmage.
Had 102 from rushing,
uh,
right?
Rushing, 102 from rushing, 76 from receiving. Can you possibly hand the starting gig back to Melvin Gordon after that?
No. I think you either let Melvin sit, because Melvin's still injured. I think you let him sit another week, or you just don't play him at all, and you just let Javonte and Mike Boone do what they have to do. I bet you the next year, at week 1 of the 2022 season, will be starters. Starting will be Javonte Williams with the number 2 back at Mike Boone. That's what I see happening.
I agree. I think I would love to see just give Williams and Boone the rock over and over and over.
Because Mike Boone played great for those 4 carries he had last night.
I mean, he tricked us into thinking that he was Javonte Williams on one run.
Yeah. He was carrying dudes down the field.
Yeah, breaking tackles and showed a burst that no other running back on the Broncos has. Mike Boone has some legit speed and jitterbug, and then showed us something with the amount of power his little body is able to create.
And that's why I am glad they let him. That's why I'm glad that they didn't rush him back. I'm glad they let him come back 100%, and now we know what he can do 100%.
Yeah, Melvin and Javonte allowed him the ability to just sit and recover, and he's coming out with fresh legs, and he showed on Sunday that he's an absolutely legitimate NFL back. And
that's why I'm excited for the Lions game.
Right, I really think he kind of proved that he was a legit running back in Minnesota when Dalvin Cook went down last year. The man had 100 some odd yards in his first career start after being an undrafted free agent. So Mike Boone is a legit running back. I still hate the fact that he replaced Philip Lindsay, but I now understand. After I've finally been able to see him live, I now understand why George Payton decided that he was a better option than Philip Lindsay, because as much as I love Philip's not breaking tackles like that.
No.
That's just not his game.
He can run downhill, but as soon as he gets grabbed, he's on the ground.
It's over. He's just too small, and he doesn't have enough weight behind him to really.
I mean, a rookie is leading.
He breaks more tackles.
I mean, a rookie is leading the league in most broken tackles this season. It's crazy.
I mean, think about this stat. At one point, Javonte Williams had 79 yards. 71 of those 79 yards came after contact. That is insane.
The man is.
Now, that doesn't happen. That's a really bad stat for the offensive line, but an absolutely insane stat for a running back. Like, that just shouldn't happen.
Don't gotta have a great offensive line if you have a Javonte breaking tackles on the field all the time. You don't have to have a great run offensive line. You can have a great one on defending the pass if you can have somebody that can defend the pass, but do enough for Javonte to go out and do what he does. Hey,
But I
it's
mean, just
perfect.
think about what he could do if he wasn't getting hit 3 yards in the backfield
Oh,
every
definitely.
single carry.
He would
Like,
be.
imagine the numbers this man could put up. He could make Nick Chubb's numbers look like a chump. Put him up. Like he could. I honestly believe that he could give Derrick Henry a run for his money as the best overall running back in the league if he just had a decent offensive line and an average quarterback. But unfortunately, he has none of that. So even though he was still able to almost rack up 200 total yards of offense, the Broncos still got mollywopped because the rest of the offense is absolutely abysmal.
How many yards is Javante accumulated this season? What's his total?
Total yardage. Let me get that pulled up here.
He's over 600 at this point,
Right.
right?
Definitely. I mean, I think he's over 600 yards rushing, maybe.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. 600 yards rushing.
I'm pulling him up right now. Yep. 670 yards rushing. Let's see what.
He could still break 1,000 with all the weeks left. He could break 1,000 in his rookie season.
If he just averages, let's see, they got 5 games left, so he doesn't even have to average 100 yards per game. I think rough math would be roughly 85 yards per game.
And that's what he puts up most games.
Yeah, he puts up somewhere. He's put up when he's gotten the touches. He put up anywhere between 60 to 70 to 80 yards per game. And
what was it, Derrick Henry? Sorry, last season Derrick Henry needed like 130 something rushing yards in the final game to break it, and he got 220.
Yeah, to get to 2,000.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he's also got 269 yards receiving. So the man he's actually really close to 1,000 all-purpose yards.
Yeah.
When you include everything together, but somehow only has 2 rushing touchdowns and 2 receiving touchdowns. That's so wrong to me. Like he's had so many touchdowns sniped.
Because of Melvin Gordon. Yeah.
Yes.
Melvin Gordon only tries inside the 5, it seems like.
I swear. And it makes no sense when you have the guy that's leading the league in broken tackles to never let him run inside the 5-yard line. I swear that they forget they have Javonte Williams once they get inside the 5-yard line.
It's and the best part about that, he's up for offensive rookie of the year, right? He's not going to get it because look at what Mac Jones has done. Oh my God, I'm loving
the slanted view of quarterbacks. Yes, most definitely. And Mac Jones is definitely the leader, but Williams should and is in.
You should be nominated
in the discussion. That's what I was looking for. But because he leads, I mean, even though he hasn't started a single game until yesterday, the man still leads all rookie running backs in yards. Like that right there should tell you just how insane this man has been when he does get his opportunity.
What is it with the Broncos and finding gems of running backs in the draft?
I mean, you just got to give kudos to the personnel department.
Yeah.
I mean, back when it was Mike Shanahan doing it, and now when you have George Payton or John Elway, they've always been able to find those diamonds in the rough, those little gems, no matter where they are in the draft. And I think that the only first-round running back the Broncos have selected in the last 20 years was an absolute bust. So I think that they're afraid. I think they're afraid to take first-round running backs. They're like, "What? We can just find these studs later on. Let's not waste the first-round pick on these guys." And that's really the way that all of the NFL is going at this point.
The rookies just shined last night on Sunday Night Football.
Yet again.
Cooper and Browning.
Let me go ahead and I'll pull this up just to give y'all a visual.
Pat Surtain got himself another pick.
Yes, Pat Surtain got himself another pick, so that's 4 on the season. Does he lead all rookies in defensive rookie of the year voting? In your
besides Micah Parsons.
Honestly, I think I put him over Micah Parsons.
Would you?
Just because of yesterday showed that he's already striking fear in veteran quarterbacks. He
Yeah.
wasn't facing a rookie. He wasn't facing Zach Wilson. Or
I mean, the
Justin
sad
Fields.
thing about what is it about the NFL honors? It's just popularity contests for votes, right? I hate that it's not voted among peers, like people in the league and its fans. I feel like it should be people in the league doing it, like in the NFL Top 100. It's players in the league voting on these guys. That's what it should be for NFL honors, and that's just the downside to that.
Yeah, I would 100% agree. But here, highlighting the rookies, we got, as we have been speaking ad nauseum, Grim Reaper there with 102 yards rushing. Then I really think that this was the stats guy screwing Javante, because when I looked at these stats right after the game, Javante was the leading receiver on the team. And then about an hour later, the stats changed and Jerry Judy had him by a yard. So I don't know where that yard came from, but I guess they just decided that Javante couldn't lead both categories, so they had to make up a yard. Um, but then you got Javante again. He had the most catches. He might not have had the most yards by one, but he had the most catches on the team for
Yeah.
76 yards and a touchdown. Had the only touchdown that any offensive player scored in this game at all, period. And let's go ahead and pull down here to the defense. We have our first rookie. Where did he go? Jonathan Cooper, right here. Had himself a sack.
Yep.
Or not a sack, had a tackle. Had a couple pressures, had a handful of pressures. Never really.
It was Browning that had a great night.
Yes, Browning had a great night. The only sack was by Draymond Jones, as you see there, second-year player. Why is Baron Brown? There he is. Boom. Baron
Browning had 8 total.
I was trying to find him. I'm glad you said so, but yeah, that's what I was trying to find. He led the team in solo tackles with 7, had 8 total tackles. I don't know why they don't have the pass defense that we all talked about yesterday on the cast, but that's missing. But he also had a pass defense, and really did a really good job of sticking with the running backs and tight ends.
Yes.
Like we have consternated about how the Broncos do not have a safety or linebacker that can run with the elite tight ends and running backs out of the backfield in the NFL. And I am starting to believe that the Broncos finally found their guy. I'm really loving Kenny Young, and I am going to say it. I don't care if the Broncos bring back Johnson or Jewell.
Kenny Young's been playing great.
Kenny Young needs to stay because he can do everything that both of those guys do, and he is a more athletic linebacker.
And you could even just drop one of the guys too. You could even drop one and bring back the other, but you save more money dropping both, right? But the ideal situation is you bring back Alexander Johnson with Kenny Young. You bring back the leader of that defense, which was Alexander Johnson, that they've been missing. But they haven't been missing him much.
No, that's why I'm saying I think Kenny Young has really taken that role, and he's a better athlete.
You need some depth.
Alexander Johnson.
You need some depth, though.
Don't get me wrong, but I think that you can get that in the draft and in free agency. I don't want you to spend all that money on middle linebackers because it doesn't normally work out when you have limited athleticism. Mm-hmm. If you're a CJ Mosley or a Patrick Queen or somebody like that, yes, pay those guys. But as far as heavy-handed thumpers, you can find them anywhere. You know what I'm saying? And since you already have Kenny Young, who has taken over this defense while only being here since week 8, or no, not week 8, week 7, is just a testament to how good that man is, how smart he is, and able to take this complicated Fangio defense and take the sticker, and Baron Browning too, the rookie, taking the sticker and lining people up. So I'm no longer convinced that you have to bring back one or the other. I am now of the belief that you don't need to pay either. Pay Kenny Young, let the young kid Baron Browning come in on his rookie deal from the 4th round that's stupid cheap, and save that money and go and get a new offensive line, a new defensive line, you know, maybe some more pass rushers. Maybe save that money. Don't spend it on them and go and grab Von Miller and bring him back.
Yeah,
You know what I'm saying? Like things like that, I would rather see at this point because Kenny Young and Baron Browning and even Justin Stranad at points have really shown me that both Jewell and Johnson are expendable.
definitely. Oh, we've been going for an hour.
Yes, we have. How about that? So, and I mean, I think it's perfect timing. We've covered everything we want to cover outside of previewing the uh, Lions game and giving our picks. So, I will let you go ahead and go first and give your thoughts on the Lions game and how you believe it will pan out.
Man, obviously Lions picked up their first win of the season. 1-10-1. They're 1-10-1.
Great story. Great story.
That's such a funny record.
It is,
1-10-1.
but the story of the fact
Yeah.
that their first win came in remembrance of Oxford and the
Yes.
school shooting. I
Just
think
like
that story is
Michigan winning
absolutely
the Big Ten championship, scoring 42 points while wearing a 42 patch.
Whew, right? Hey, 42, baby.
Yep.
The answer is always.
And I mean,
42.
watching that is amazing, right? Hopefully,
Yes.
like you would
Oh,
love
that
to
was
see.
epic.
If I was watching them play another team, I would love to see them carry that over. But now I'm scared they're going to carry that over against the Broncos, right?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it takes, yeah, exactly. And I'm glad to see that a lot of the Broncos players they were humbled by this loss.
Yes.
Something that didn't happen after the Eagles, and something I pointed out both after the win against the Cowboys and the win against LA, where these players were sitting here thumping their chest and telling everybody about how wrong we were, about how bad they were, and twice in a row they come out and get absolutely embarrassed because they opened their mouth and let it get ahead of let their gator get ahead of their mouth and really ate it bit the dust. I mean, it's absolutely pathetic. Uh, but I do believe that again, like I said, I've seen a lot of humbleness coming out of this roster, so that bodes very well. But the fact is that the Broncos are playing a game of attrition. I
Definitely.
mean, they've lost. Calvin Anderson's on the IR. Graham Glasgow's on the IR. Bryce Callahan, Micah Kaiser, Andre Mintz, AJ Johnson, KJ Hamler, Josie Jewell, Michael Ojemudia just came back. Adrian Killen, Brett
Hey, he
Young,
played great last
Levante
night
Bell.
too.
Yes, he really did. I got to say that he came
Missed
out
him.
and showed that the progress he showed at the end of last year was not a fluke and that he is a legitimate NFL cornerback. So I am glad about that. And then you look at the Detroit Lions, and really there's not a single starter, I think, outside of Jeff Okuda and Joe Heath. Those are the only two starters that they are down. So the Broncos are hurting. We all saw Teddy was out there with the shin guard again, limping around
Mhm.
with his bone bruise. So he's being held together by duct tape. You got an offensive line that's being held together by duct tape. You just got Garrett Bowles back, but again, you've lost Graham Glasgow. I think
And we're not missing Glasgow much though.
Widener, no, honestly, I don't think he was great. I hated the signing from the
Yeah, I
beginning.
did too.
I said the moment they signed him, they paid way too much for
Just like a
a
Jawan James.
mediocre guard. Yep, 1,000%, like Jawan James. I will say that he has played better than Jawan, but not by much.
Yeah, well, Jawan barely
Excuse me.
played.
Exactly. So like I was saying, a very low bar to hurdle. He could have tiptoed over that bar.
Yeah.
But
Oh no.
so there's some cause for concern. You had Jared Goff, have his coming out party, and as much as people want to say he sucked, the man still has almost a 2-to-1 TD to interception ratio.
And the
He's
man went to a
averaging
Super Bowl.
240 yards. Did take a game, team to the Super Bowl. He does have a running back that's averaging 140 yards a game, 4-yard average with 4 touchdowns. You got T.J. Hawkinson, who's turning into one of, if not the best tight ends in the league.
Still have Golden Tate.
You know, still got Golden Tate. They have a better offensive line than they've had over the past few years, and their defense has looked decent at times. I mean, they just, embarrassed Minnesota. I mean, obviously not their defense, but they had enough offense and made enough defensive plays to embarrass Minnesota in their field. That was in Minnesota yesterday, wasn't it?
No, it was in Detroit.
Was it? Oh yeah, it was in Detroit. That's right, because they had the whole rigmarole beforehand. But yeah, so they got the home win. They are coming into Mile High. They're coming across multiple time zones. So even though I have my consternations, even though I'm worried that the Broncos might overlook this team, I think that they're going to be embarrassed enough by this Kansas City loss that they're not going to allow a one-win Detroit team to come into Denver and beat them up.
Yep.
So I will go against what I have done for the last several weeks. I will go ahead and give my pick first because I'm sure this will shock y'all. I am going to take the Broncos. I will give the Broncos the win against Detroit at home, and I think it will be a pretty decisive one, 24-10.
I'm going to take the Broncos too, but the key's to win, right? You got to run the ball. You got to run it a lot against this Detroit team. They don't like playing against the run, from what I've seen. I think they're one of the bottom teams against the rushing defense.
Right here, overall, period. They're 27th in points per game, 29th in total yards against, 21st in passing yards against, 28th in rushing yards against, and 30th in sacks.
Yep. So you're going to run the ball a lot, right? Let Javonte Williams and Mike Boone run the ball down their throat. And this is a game where you can mix some stuff up in the passing game, right? This is where you can try something new. If it doesn't work, you can fall back on your game plan, right? Try and find some different options for Teddy to throw the ball instead of throwing these short routes, right? These short passes that end up on third and long, end up fourth and short, punt the ball. Let's see some more deep balls this week. Let's see some deep balls like they did against the Jaguars, Jets, and the Giants. I want to see those first 3 weeks. I want to see that offense against this Detroit team.
And real quick before, one thing I do want to point out is something I said at the beginning of the year. I said that Teddy would give you a bunch of fool's gold when the weather was nice, but the moment that he went to Kansas City in December and the weather wasn't nice, you were going to see a whole different Teddy that was completely inept and was not going to be able to make any plays. And what happened? He went to Kansas City in December with weather. And that's going to be the one bugaboo if it does get nasty here in Denver, because it's supposed to snow on Friday. So there's a great potential for a nasty weather game. So I want to ask one more question before we go. If there is weather and Teddy struggles to begin the game, should the Broncos switch out to Drew Lock because of the arm strength?
I mean, if it's an option, you could, right? I would say yes, but looking at the weather right now, Sunday's supposed to be 57, no clouds.
Right, but we all know how Colorado weather.
Oh no, dude, trust me, I know. It was 73 on Saturday, and it's a high here right now of 30.
Yes, it was 61 degrees when I got to the studio yesterday. It is now, like, I don't know, in the 20s maybe.
Yeah, it's 32 here right now, but with the wind, it feels like 23.
I believe it. Yeah, I don't have my phone with me near, so I can't really look at the weather real quick.
You could. But
it was freezing when I came to the studio today. And
I haven't been outside yet, and I have to go after this.
I think the wind was a bit ridiculous too. I got a bit, for those of you who don't know, I got a third row SUV. It's an 03 Mercury Mountaineer, so it's not like it's a newer, small little SUV that's made out of plastic. I got an older SUV made out of metal, and the wind was making my truck move around on I-25. So there's definitely something nasty blowing into Colorado right now.
Yeah, and I mean, looking at I think I'm gonna looking at this game. I'm gonna take a score. Like you said, I think they're gonna play. They're gonna try some new things on offense, whether it's with Teddy or Drew or Javante and Mike Boone. I'm gonna take this game. Gonna be a. I'll take this game 28-14.
Okay, we got some questions in the chat, I guess. I'm not sure which weekdays of the NFL. We have one. We got an Eagles question. I guess since you came to the chat, I appreciate you. Zoo Farmer Games Master Project Zorgo Gingerbread. That's an epic name, my guy. I appreciate you coming in. Make sure that you drop a like, subscribe. All the links and everything are in the description. But since you asked us a question, who is the Eagle playing in the playoff? Which team? Eagles 7th seed because Lion win versus Vikings. When it comes to the Eagles playing in the playoffs, I believe in the wild card. They'll probably be the 7th seed. Let me go ahead and look at the NFC playoff picture, and I will give you.
Yeah, with the Vikings losing, that bumped the Eagles up with their win yesterday.
Yeah. So that bumped them into the 7th seed. I just got to pull.
They're looking at like a Rams, right?
My guys, so bear with me here.
They're looking at like a Rams game, right?
I think so, because the Rams. Well, actually, no, the Rams are a wild card right now. I'm just waiting for this to load.
Oh, if the Eagles are a 7, they'd be playing a 2. So if you're looking at a 2 NFC,
right now the Eagles are actually on the bubble, but they are one game out of the 7th seed. So if they go into the 7th seed,
you're playing the one. You'd be playing the top seed.
The number 2 seed, because the top seed gets the bye week, so they would be playing the Packers. So I'm sorry, my guy. If that's the case, y'all are going to get mollywopped. Aaron Rodgers is on a scorched earth tour, especially after everybody calling him stupid for COVID, which is legitimate, and he deserved it, but still, he's angry about it.
And he's still playing great.
He's still playing great, and that defense has taken to another step, even without Zadarius Smith.
I think that's the best Packers defense I've ever seen in recent years.
Yeah. Pretty much since probably the mid-90s with Reggie White in them. I would definitely give you that.
Who was the big guy in the Super Bowl against the Broncos?
Oh, the grave digger. I forget his name, but that was his nickname, was the grave digger. But yes, I know exactly who you're talking about. That's the guy that everybody laughed at because Tom Nalen, the smallest offensive lineman, was able to pancake him on the walk-in touchdown by Terrell Davis, which they claimed that they were letting him score because they wanted the time, but whatever. I'm still sticking with the fact that the smallest Denver offensive lineman laid out y'all's biggest defender.
And then Ed McCaffrey laid out a linebacker earlier in the game.
Yep. Yeah, he was one of the people that made the whole rule that old boy got nailed for yesterday by the Chiefs when he laid out Lloyd Cushenberry.
Yep.
The blind side block. Ed McCaffrey, like everybody wants to talk about Hines Ward. Y'all need to go back and look at what Ed McCaffrey used to do with that thing. Like,
and look what
Hines Ward was dirty. Y'all should see Ed McCaffrey. That man.
And and there's a good rule about cut blocking now because of Howard Griffith and Terrell Davis just screwing over Levon Kirkland in an AFC Championship game. Levon Kirkland, that man had to be 400 pounds, but they said he was 300.
Right. He also has a question about Saturday games. So since you're in here, Guy, I will figure out what your Saturday games are as well. I believe they are the last couple of weeks. Actually, I don't know.
Yo, Levon Kirkland looks good nowadays, dude. I'm looking at a picture of him.
Right.
Hey, he ain't looking like Orlando Franklin good, though. My God. Have you seen him?
No, I haven't seen him lately. Is he looking stacked?
Dude, he is. I got to pull this up.
Okay, it looks like
I got a side-by-side picture. I'm going to put it in our chat.
What's that?
I'm gonna put a link to this picture.
Okay, gotcha.
And put it in the chat in here. Click on
32 degrees in Denver. I don't believe it. I don't believe it.
Well, look at it with the wind. See what it feels like with the wind.
I know. That's why I'm being facetious. The only Saturday games I'm finding so far are on Christmas, but I'm double checking just to be sure.
Well, they haven't scheduled those games, have they?
outside of Christmas, I don't think. Well, I mean, usually they do schedule them, but they also do flexing and things of that nature. So there's always a possibility. But trying to look at the calendar here. Yeah, because Christmas Day. I know they have games on Christmas Day, which is on a Saturday. But that's the only Saturday games that I'm finding, my guy.
All right.
So
I went to a
those are all the
Saturday game a
questions
few
there.
years ago. It was a disappointment.
That was it.
It was the Browns
Yeah,
game.
oh yeah, the Browns. I know exactly what you. Yeah, I'm sure that was an extreme.
I was there, but I was
It
there
was
for
a
Bradley
ball
Chubb
out.
to. I was there for Von Miller's all-time Broncos sack record. I got to see that, and I got to see Bradley Chubb break Von's rookie sack record, and Philip
Yep.
Lindsay reach 1,000 yards in a loss to the goddamn Browns.
Right. Yeah. Well, I think that's a good note to leave this on.
Yeah.
Again, appreciate all of y'all. I see again more likes and all that than people that are in the chat. That's always a wonderful and appreciated thing. Thank you again to all of y'all that showed up yesterday to our cast. Y'all were absolutely amazing, dropping
2K likes.
2,000 likes, y'all. Y'all just killed it. Thank y'all so much. That meant so much to us. We love y'all. Again, I am for the Answers 42 Media Network, for Bird Gang Sports Media Network. I am Daniel Wetstein. That's my co-host, Dylan Miles. And always remember, don't you ever question the blue. Links in description.